ships. But then my Falcon's hyperdrive just slipped. I used to worry about the future, but then I threw my caution to the wind. I had no reason to be carefree. No, no, no. Until I took a trip to the treetop side of town. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I heard that wicked rhythm. Hey, I had no choice but to get down, 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 dance. Woo! There's nothing left for me to do but dance. All these bad times I'm going through, just dance. Got cash shaking my heels tonight, baby. I feel the thunder, see the lightning. I know this Wookiee has a scent, so I've got to hang out all my hang-ups because of this Wookiee.
Did I put the wrong intro on?
I was
Yeah.
thinking something was different.
I think I put the old one on. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. I'm gonna delete the old. I'm gonna delete that one right now, so I don't do it again. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what I was. I'm.
Our tens of listeners are very upset with you right now.
Well, it doesn't say how many we have at the moment. One. We have one. We have one listeners slash. There. I got the chat thing up. So everyone introduce themselves. I'm Mike,
And I'm Ken.
I'm John.
and I feel like we should say in unison. We're the,
The tremendous trio known as the
we're
the
back.
Inflatable Falcon Crew.
We had to give John the link this time.
What did I do? I'm sorry.
We forgot. I forgot to give you the link. I felt bad about that.
I felt like, oh my God, I haven't seen it in so long. What's the kid's name from Home Alone?
Oh, I don't know.
Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah, but the
Kevin?
character name.
Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when they forgot, when they're on the plane, they're like, did we forget something? I feel like we forgot something.
You find your dad's aftershave.
Yeah.
People still use aftershave.
I do occasionally.
Okay.
I never understood it.
Yeah, when you're like in your teenage years in the '80s, like every relative that barely knew you, that's what you got for a gift.
It was usually from Avon.
Yeah, it was in a weird bottle, like here's an antique car, or
A pheasant.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of hunting themes and nautical stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the funniest one I ever saw, I think the decanter was like a garden tractor.
Oh yeah, I had a set of binoculars. Each thing was a bottle, and I kept those. I probably kept those till I even moved out here.
Were they two different flavors? Like were they
I don't know. I never.
Flavors?
or scents or whatever? Like
I don't think it would
What?
taste very good if I'm honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Avon catalog. That was we could probably do a whole show on that. With those, they would come around with all the different bottles and stuff. And that was before you had those weird aisles that just have the gifts that if someone's buying you a gift from that, they really don't know you. If you get the desk golf kit, or, or the card deck shuffling machine. I don't know.
is this a VHS rewinder? Oh, I wanted one of these.
Yes. Be kind and rewind, man. Ah, fun times. So we were going to talk about Ahsoka.
Yeah, and I think before we got on, you brought up an interesting way of doing it. I mean, we've often looked at different themes. We've often looked at either scenes or Easter eggs or whatever. But I think your idea, your suggestion of looking at a character over the course of the next couple of episodes would be fantastic. And I think starting off with the title character, the main character, Ahsoka, is a great place to start.
Yeah, the main reason I thought of it was during the strike, we weren't getting any recap shows in podcasts mostly. And I was like, you know what? I don't really mind not having a recap show. of something I just watched multiple times. You know,
Yeah, I'll watch like the new Rock Stars or Screen Crush just to like pick up on little things I missed because
Yeah.
well, granted, it was more helpful when when they came out at 3 a.m. and I'd stay up all night, be dead tired, and miss
Yeah.
a handful of things. So it'd be like, oh, I didn't catch that. But yeah, with the 9 p.m. releases, like they're not really all that helpful.
Yeah.
And see, that's another thing that I really appreciated about the Ahsoka show is not only was it a new show, a different flavor than let's say Andor or Bad Batch or Book of Boba Fett. It was also at a new time. It was at a different time, one that we, like you said, we didn't have to wake up at 0 dark 30 to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that it has opened. I feel like time is a flat circle because we went from everything when Netflix started, everything came out all at once. You got to binge the entire season, and then Disney Plus came around, and then we're going back to the weekly. Now we're back to scheduled television
Yeah.
at prime time hour.
Yeah.
So time is a flat circle, but I appreciate that because it seems to be the new norm going forward with Disney Plus because I think it was very successful, at least based on the fact that immediately after Ahsoka we had Loki that was also came out at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it was nice because you didn't have to choose between sleep or having it spoiled.
Right.
I mean, so let's go Ahsoka. Let's go way back in our DeLoreans or whatever car you decide to build your time machine out of.
I prefer the hot tub time machine. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
2008, right?
Yeah, the Clone Wars movie.
2008, the Clone Wars movie. We were introduced to Ahsoka. Now, I think I was at least one of the rare people that saw it 3 or 4 times in the theater at least, because Zoe loved it, and in turn when when you see her, I like the character too. What made me like that character was the battle going up the wall, and I know people hated like the Sky Guy quips and all that. It reminded me of Spider-Man comic books.
Mhm.
That was how Spider-Man dealt with his nervous energy. He always said stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like just fit into that. So what was your first impression of Ahsoka? Either of you.
I mean, obviously, I was much closer to that age at the time, similar to like how Zoe connected with Ahsoka. So, I was never in the camp that like when the movie came out, like I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that, oh, she was my favorite character.
Right.
I was fairly indifferent on it because it wasn't a live action movie. It didn't capture me like the rest of the movies did. But I wasn't like super extreme one way or the other.
Yeah, and for me, I didn't think of Ahsoka as Ahsoka at first. I thought of her in relation to Anakin.
Oh, okay.
What are we getting in the Anakin Skywalker story with this new character? And it wasn't until several years into the show that I actually, and I don't know when it was, but there became a point in time where like, you know what? This character is whole. This character is, developing and growing in front of me, and I'm enjoying this character as this character and not, just in relation to Anakin.
I think
I lucked out because mine also was probably either subconsciously me and Zoe's relationship. Like I was the Anakin to her Ahsoka, at that time because she was just really getting into Star Wars, and I think it came out. I had been trooping for maybe a year, a little more than a year. So, I think the opening night, I want to say the midnight release of Toys was probably my 3rd or 4th troop. and the Zoe's first troop we had probably 7 or 8 animated clones in that troop.
Well, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just based on what I've witnessed of you and your family and you and your relationship with your daughters, it could have also been this is an opportunity to get them into Star Wars on their level and not just what you liked about it. This was new stuff that you could grow with them with.
Yeah.
Whether it's sitting down and watching the animated shows live and in person with them, or when it was you know in your home through the cartoons.
And that first year, probably the first season, I watched every episode twice because I would pre-watch it before Zoe would watch it to make sure it was okay as a parent.
Yeah. Ken, I think you bring up a really good point about, just Star Wars in general. Because, as you said, it took, those first couple seasons for you to like fully understand and appreciate this character. And I think that's something that a lot of people should take into consideration going forward. Like, there's a lot of hate on a lot of the new stuff. And got to remember, a lot of people didn't like Ahsoka at first. And now everyone's, oh, I've loved Ahsoka from the very start. Mike, you've said it so many times.
That's me and Zoe have that conversation all the time. And I understand how people become gatekeepers because we couldn't find someone else who liked Ahsoka. Like there was no girls liked it. There was at school no one liked it. It was and then all of a sudden these people, and then we're just like, I guess we just were in the wrong circle of friends. But I call fake on a few of these fake fans on some of these backstories.
Yeah, so that's why when people start him-hawing about oh, I hate XYZ character because it's not my Star Wars. It's like, well, did you like Ahsoka in 2008?
I was recorded all the arguments Zoe would have with 500 First members about it.
Right. So like when people like Rey is a perfect example. There are very few people that are very vocal about their admiration for Rey as a character. I bet you in 10 years, everyone's going to love Rey. Rey is going to be one of their favorite characters.
Well, and with that, I think part of it is that some of the volume that we hear now saying they loved it may have been the kids who didn't have the vocabulary or the confidence to describe it, and now that they're of a certain age, they can freely acknowledge and get into in-depth conversations about what it was that they liked. And even not even just talking about Ahsoka as a character, there were folks that when the Clone Wars movie and the Clone Wars TV show came out, people bashed on the animation style.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is not my Star Wars. And what I do, one of the many things that I absolutely love about Star Wars is we can look at each of these new things, these new, whether it's an animation style or musical styles, because the music that we have in Ahsoka is not exactly like John Williams' music from A New Hope. They're in the same family, they're connected, but they're not the same. And with these new introductions of things, it gives us more to look at, more to think about, more to talk about, instead of it just being the same thing repeated and repeated and repeated time and time again. It keeps it fresh, and it allows new people to come in and say what they like about this new thing, and then you can say what I liked about that old thing, and now we can have a much more fun filled conversation.
Yeah, right. And that's the same argument I always had with my dad about Revenge of the Sith, because I've said it before. I'll throw him under the bus every time. He did not like Revenge of the Sith when it came out. He didn't like the prequels, but now he loves them. And I think a lot of that is credited to the fact that I've aged and matured, and I'm able to articulate those feelings about those movies. Yeah. So I think you're spot on that a lot of people who like Ahsoka and are more vocal about it now in the Clone Wars in general, they've aged and they've grown with the show, and can make that point.
Yeah. Well, and that character, the Ahsoka character, went through so many changes in the Clone Wars, but then we got to see Ahsoka in Rebels too, and just enough that I was not. I was my only not. I was not a fan of the style of Ahsoka in Clone Wars. I didn't like the appearance as much. It just, they didn't Ahsoka me. You know
See,
what
Rebels is my favorite look for Ahsoka.
Really? See,
Yeah.
that was not a look that I. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was not my. It was my least favorite. But when we watched the show, I was never because she appeared in season 2 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I couldn't. She didn't. I couldn't see Ahsoka in her.
Mhm.
I saw someone dressed as Ahsoka.
So is it
Yeah.
you couldn't see her or you couldn't hear her?
Well, it was. I was saying I couldn't see her, but I think it was the hearing part.
Yeah, because we've come to associate Ahsoka with the voice of Ashley,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Rosario Dawson, as fantastic as she is as an actress, isn't Ashley's, doesn't have Ashley's mannerisms and voices and stuff.
right. And if he was fighting on the docks in the Ahsoka show, that's when the switch turned for me. I don't know why. I was like, oh yeah, it was just. I think it was her style of fight or something.
Well, I mean, I think too with that is we can almost make the argument that Ahsoka, of all of the characters that we've come to know in Star Wars, she may be one of the ones that's most fleshed out from birth to now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And we've seen, I think we've seen much more of Ahsoka than we have of even characters like Luke Skywalker. I mean, Luke
Oh,
Skywalker still has a big gap of time when he was on Tatooine where we don't know what he did. But with Ahsoka, we got to see her grow up into the Clone Wars, go into Rebels, and now live action with Rosario.
and flashbacks when she was younger.
Yeah, I was gonna say by technicality, we have bookends, start and finish of Ahsoka's life from the Tales of the Jedi when you see her, in her tribe, to the Rise of Skywalker when she's one with the Force. Theoretically,
Well,
you know,
and
when
she's probably one of the last characters we'll get from George Lucas.
yeah,
I mean, I know he was a Dave creation, but he, again, I forget which documentary, but when you see how much, like, George was just going to let Dave run with it, and then when he saw what was doing it, he got more involved as time went on.
Well, he got
Mhm.
more involved. However, it was George's idea to have Ahsoka.
Yeah,
I mean, it was George that said Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan, and Dave kind of pushed back on it and said, wait a minute. Anakin Skywalker didn't have a Padawan, and George said, "Yeah, Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan, and here you go." And then I think George and Dave grew with Ahsoka and what she became, and now that the apprentice has become the master, or the teacher
yeah.
or the student has become the master, we're going to get to see much more of Dave's Ahsoka than just George's influence.
Yeah, honestly though, I still I would make the argument that even though yes, Ahsoka is George's creation technically, I think Ahsoka is more Dave's, molding and sculpting than George obviously has influence, but I would still argue to say that the penultimate would go to Dave in that.
I picture her as he took the character and set, like, George set the character on the table, and Dave ran with it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I'm seeing if I can make sure our chat's working. Yeah, I mean, and then we jump ahead to the show, right? So and I don't know if you guys noticed, but the first third of the show before she became Ahsoka the White, she was acting differently.
Mhm.
Like you know what I mean? Like,
Acting differently than what?
was it like she didn't seem like old Ahsoka. She seemed more serious and more almost brooding.
Well,
Yeah.
you got to figure too that from Rebels to live action Ahsoka, much time had passed.
Yeah.
And that gap in time, even though I said, a little while ago that Ahsoka may be the most fleshed out character, there still is, a big gap in time that we don't get to, hear her thoughts or see her actions. especially in that time period after she left the Jedi Order. So there was a lot of things that went on in her life, and when we catch up with her again, to your point, yeah, she's acting differently, she's talking differently, much like Luke Skywalker on Acto was acting differently and talking differently because of all the things that he experienced off screen that we didn't know about.
Yeah, and honestly, I think subconsciously that's probably why I like the first 4 episodes aren't really my favorite of the show. I think it's because Ahsoka standing there with her arms crossed and speaking very monotone isn't how like I had Ahsoka pictured in my mind and like how I've been used to seeing her. So I think subconsciously that's probably why like I don't really want to go back and rewatch those first 4 more than I want to see the last 4.
But see, now that you see it's a part of the story,
Mhm.
like it's similar to unrelated Star Wars, but it's similar to Loki.
Mhm.
The day before the last episode of Loki, I was saying to Zoe, I was like, I don't think I really like season 2. And then when the last one came out, I was like, oh, season 2 is way better than season 1 in my mind. You know?
Okay. I just got to say one piece, and then we'll get back to Star Wars. Loki season 1 and season 2 is my all-time favorite Marvel project.
Yes.
I love the show. It's fantastic. I thought start to finish.
That's what I'm saying. Like because I was, and I think Ken or one of you guys have said it, that we got to think of these sometimes as like movies.
Mhm.
And I wasn't thinking of Loki as a movie. And sometimes with Ahsoka, and I like the first ones because of Sabine. You know what I mean? Live action,
Yeah.
Sabine, like that was just like a perfect melding of that's a whole nother talk for another time. But so I was when some people were a little put off by the more brooding Ahsoka, the Sabine made up for it for me.
Well, even Sabine started off unlike the Sabine that we left Rebels with.
Yeah. But see, that's like, so if we go to what we're saying, where all the stories covered, I think what was nice about what Dave did and what George always did, you don't fill in everything. Because you don't fill in everything because 10 years from now, Dave's protege might want to make something, like if you look at, and I think you and I had this conversation last week, Ken, we were talking about how they say about the dialogue is bad and it's really just the words. If you look at New Hope, how many things were referred to either by word, picture, or whatever that they never filled in for decades?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the brilliance of it. 'Cause and it's for us. I think it's somewhat hard. Or actually, no, I'm going to change that. For folks now who are stepping into Star Wars now, they have this ginormous galaxy to look into. When we were going through this, we didn't have all of this,
Right.
and so in those gap periods, we filled in the blanks with our own stories. We filled in the blanks with the role playing games. We filled in the blanks with the video games and the books and that sort of stuff. Whereas now, folks are really, really, really spoiled, um, and they don't have to wait 16 years between the end of one movie and another. They don't have to wonder if there will be another thing, because we know that since the sale to Disney, there's going to be another something.
Right.
And back then there wasn't there wasn't the intense motivation to fill in those blanks right away.
Right.
Even between the movies, there was 3 years in between the movies. Now we don't. We have 1 year between shows, and people are like, "Oh my God, the sky is falling. What is going on?"
Yeah, and I mean I've said it before and I'll say it again. We are blessed with how much we're getting, and I think a lot of people take it for granted.
Oh yeah.
Well, and in some ways too, there's this unrealistic expectation that every character is going to be involved in some sort of, you know, intense action thing every moment that they're on screen, and that I don't think it makes for good entertainment, and I don't think it makes for excellent storytelling either. You need those high and low moments. You need those moments where the character may lose or the villain may win to create that sense of dynamic tension that make you want to watch it more. Like, what's going to happen? What is going to occur here that's going to be a lesson for us or a lesson for the character or whatever.
Well, not even that. I think you don't even need the characters to be super important. Like, for instance, I really want to do a Marok costume. And I was having this discussion in my group chat with some of my 501st friends, because I was hawing about whether or not I wanted to buy the pop figure of Marok. And, one of my friends said, well, I mean, he wasn't really that important, so why waste the money? But it's like, yeah, but he was still a really cool character. Just because he didn't do a whole lot, and he was essentially just hired muscle for Morgan Elsbeth and, Balin and Shin. He's still, the costume's fantastic.
Yeah.
The movement and just the way that he had a presence. Like, he was still a really cool character.
I vote you should do that costume.
Oh goodness! And I have two words, that I'll put out there for you in terms of it's not important, and folks have invested a lot of time, effort, and energy into the costume. That's Wilro Hood.
Yeah.
I think it was like 6 seconds. You see this guy running through the hallway carrying a legit ice cream machine from the 1970s. And now you get hundreds of people at Star Wars Celebration who gather at a certain time so they can run the convention floor with fake mustaches, and so on.
Well, and that's what makes all the Ahsoka stuff good. Like, all those characters that they put in the background. Like, think of all the characters, not only in her show, but in Clone Wars that she came in contact with. Like, when her lightsaber was stolen. Then we saw, what was his name? The guy who helped her? We saw him in Kenobi, frozen in whatever, at the basement of that tower.
Oh, and the yellow, almost not carbonite, but the yellow goo or whatever.
The amber.
Amber, that's what it was, yeah.
So, like, and then Ahsoka, when the Ahsoka stuff, I think that was the most surprising and probably the best on the show. I don't know what episode was the flashbacks.
That was the 5th episode, I think.
Yeah.
Now, the flashbacks, so it resembled on screen the world between worlds, which
Right.
showed up in Rebels. And I think we've talked about it briefly in the past, but now we have a little bit more freedom to do it now that the strikes are over and we can put this out there for the universe to hear. Do you think she was actually in the world between worlds, or do you think that she was having this dream sequence while she was, in the water and thinking she was in the world between worlds? Because I personally, I don't think they're the same thing.
I think she was near death, and her mind took her to a place of comfort that she knows that she can live or die, as Anakin says.
Yeah, and I think she has a special connection from it because the daughter's missing. Like, I think she more than anyone has, because her symbols in the show, in the credits of the show, are the star map, which also has a little bit of a connection to that world between worlds in that one painting. So I think she has a special connection to that. But I just like the flashbacks. Like, my kid saw all those pictures for over a year and didn't tell me, which really makes me happy and sad. Zoe saw Anakin in the Clone Wars costume. She knew about Ahsoka the White, because when she went out to lunch with those guys, they showed her all that stuff.
Oh,
She knew all that. She knew the young. She knew who the actress was. She knew all that stuff. She saw pictures. She saw Rex. She saw all that. And
she didn't even warn him that Rex's armor is awful. I'm sorry, as a costumer, that's.
But that's the cool thing about being a costumer, though, is you appreciate or don't appreciate all those little details.
I appreciate the details. It's just, oh my, the bicep armor 180 degrees the wrong way. It hurts.
Well,
It hurts.
So at Disney, when we went to the one of the last Star Wars weekends, they had a Rex, and the armor was beautiful, and he had them on, I think, upside down.
Well,
Oh,
wasn't it in the Mandalorian where the biker scouts knee pads are upside down?
So you often wonder if they're like, hey, let's just do this just to tick off some, you know what I mean? Like,
that can't have been comfortable though, because the bicep armor is like contoured to your bicep. So because there's a spoon on the backside, and then there's a raise over the where your bicep is.
I don't know.
That and then the elbow armor being 90 degrees sitting on the outside of your, oh my god, I cannot wait for that CRL to come out.
But that was such a good way to do all those flashbacks.
Oh, 100%.
You know, the world between world still confuses me a little bit, but I like it as long as Dave's in control of it.
I think that's the point though. I don't think that we're supposed to fully understand like what it is specifically. I think it's supposed to be ambiguous.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's supposed to be ambiguous and a big nod to the fantasy stuff that George wanted to have in Star Wars from the get-go, and they just didn't have either the ability to do it, the ability to put it on screen, or in some ways, shape or form, the willingness of the fans to accept it. I mean, there's been witchcraft in Star Wars for a long time, but it's been in small dribs and drabs. I mean, the Night Sisters of Dathomir have been in, the courtship of Princess Leia. They were in the Ewok movies.
They had their own comic book, like that one.
Yep.
One of the few canon comic books, like when the switcheroo came. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's also a good way to if you want to teach a lesson. Like if you need to get that lesson across, but kind of pull it out of the story. You know, like she had her own little lesson within the story. Like you almost wish, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you would have seen more of Gandalf's transformation in the movie. In the book, I think it explained it a little more, but you know what I mean? Like you wish you would have seen when he went from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, where this time you got to see it.
Mhm.
Well, and to your point that we saw it on screen, and if we really put in the time, effort, and energy, we can overlay that experience on our own lives. I mean, so to go back to the original question, do you think she was in the world between worlds, or do you think it was a dream sequence? I think it was a dream sequence, and like I know I've had experiences where even though I'm not in a place, I can visually see it, I can smell it, I can remember what it was like when I was there, and play through in my head things that I either experienced or wish I had experienced. And that was, some of what was going on with Ahsoka in those moments, where she was seeing Anakin, having those flashbacks and learning those lessons unconsciously. And then when she woke up or was found or was rescued and, came back to life again for the second time on screen, she was, as you said, and I'm glad you mentioned the Tolkien aspect of it, Ahsoka the White.
Now, I felt like it also proved to me that she was a better Jedi than Anakin, because she made a choice that he didn't make.
Mhm.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I caution you on the choice of the word better.
Okay.
So not that she was a
Oh, well,
better Jedi,
I
just
think-
a different Jedi.
Okay. Well, because I think he thought his choices were within the dogma, and she kind of chose to do the right thing regardless of the dogma.
Well, is it really right or wrong? I mean, let's look at uh, a similar thing. This idea of keeping people from death. You know, in the prequels, we think that that's tied to the Sith and keeping people alive. Yet in the Mandalorian, in the Mandalorian and in Rise of Skywalker, we see people using the Force to prevent people from dying, and it wasn't a good choice or a bad choice, or a right choice or a wrong choice. It was a choice.
Right.
So
Yeah, I felt like it gave her some validation as a Jedi. Maybe that's the better way to say it. It gave her validation as a great Jedi, not better than anyone. Just it proved her worth as a Jedi.
well, and it makes us like that topic in and of itself is a fun one to explore. Who are the Jedi and or what are the Jedi? Because what we saw in the prequels is different than what we saw in the original trilogy, and definitely different than what we've seen in everything since then. And it's changed over time.
That will be explored a lot in the the upcoming Ray.
Well, it could be in the Ray thing. It could be in the James Mangold movie. He's going back to when the Jedi, originated.
Yeah.
So, and and it ties so nicely to what you were talking about earlier, Mike. That there's so much room to fill in the blanks for these stories, even if it means we have to go thousands of years ago, or 15 years after the last movie that we've seen.
As
Well-
long as they have droids.
don't discount the Dave Filoni movie, because you could still explore the same thing through Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm watching Book of Boba Fett, so I'm up to where they just killed his whole tribe and stuff, and I see that character. Like Boba Fett is one of those ones where we've seen his whole life, and most of what we know about Boba Fett has nothing to do with the original 3 movies.
Mhm.
Like we've seen him as a kid, and then we've seen him all through the Clone Wars. Similar to Ahsoka, we've seen him almost bookend to bookend.
Yeah, but then still there's big gaps in there.
Oh,
There's times in there where he had really bad step parents, where he was spending time with Aura Singh and Bosk, learning the bounty hunter trade.
She wouldn't have made the step parent or the foster parent sheet, I don't think. But
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about Star Wars, though. We've mentioned so many characters that have such large gaps in, what we know within the canon, that you can have your own headcanon until they fill in those blanks.
Yep.
And if you don't like it, you can stick to your headcanon.
Yep. Well, and then Ahsoka goes all the way through, which again we can talk about Sabine's decision. That's a whole nother thing too. But I thought Ahsoka, when she didn't fight, what's his name? The guy-
Balin,
Mhm.
Balin Skull.
Yeah, when she chose not to fight just to kind of trick him and move, that showed that she learned from Anakin, but didn't always follow what he would have done. Because Anakin would have still fought. In the Clone Wars, Anakin fought everyone he could, to save the day. So.
And, that was also a selfish thing, because, Anakin always wanted to one up. He wanted to be the best.
Oh yeah.
So, which obviously, helped his fall to the dark side, because, when you're the best Jedi, who do you have left to compete with?
Well, and he was raised to think he was the best Jedi, that he was the chosen one. I mean, that's got to be a really heavy burden to bear. That the fate of the galaxy is resting on your shoulders. Don't mess up.
Well, and to be honest, like especially it goes back to we're talking about filling in gaps, which I know we're getting off of Ahsoka, but with Anakin, the Clone Wars made Revenge of the Sith even a better movie, because if you didn't know the Clone Wars existed, you didn't watch any of those shows, and you watch Revenge of the Sith, you're like, wow, he didn't get in his first try, whoop-de-doo. But everyone on that council, he saved their butts at least once, if not more times, and then they say you can't be on the council. That made it even worse. And I wonder if Ahsoka had to deal with that too, because she was the chosen one's apprentice.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you want to circle that back to Ahsoka as well, I mean, her leaving immediately after they were reunited on the Venator, that also, that plays a part. It's like, well, y'all evicted her, and you're not letting me on the council.
Yep.
So, or you're not giving me the rank of master, not on the council. But yeah,
And how good was that? Like, how good was all the pieces that were laid out for this show with the anime, with the what was the Ahsoka, the shorts they did,
oh, the
Tales of the Jedi.
the Jedi, like that setup and the season 7 and all that. Just it was almost like Dave knew what he was doing. You know,
It's like poetry; it rhymes.
it's that's and that goes back to what we have said probably more times than you can remember. That we had, and I don't necessarily include us in this because I feel like we've learned our lesson on this one. So many people think they know what's going on, like their backs, and they don't understand the big picture. I mean, like Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni and whoever else is in charge of all this, they have a bigger picture of what they're doing. And we just get so every time you hear, well, this person's movie's been delayed or this, it's for a reason. It's a work in progress.
yeah.
Well, and so sorry, go ahead, John. I mean to interrupt.
All I was going to say is, the other thing that I feel like a lot of people don't understand is, just because like one show ends or one movie is the end of a chapter, it's not over. Like there's still more coming.
Right.
So there's always going to be more Star Wars media, even if if Disney says tomorrow, everything we've got on the slate right now, that's it. That's all we're making as far as visual entertainment.
Yeah.
There's always going to be books. There's always going to be video games, comic books,
Fan films.
fan films. So it's never the end. There is always something larger at play.
Shout out to Han Solo Chronicles. Our feed keeps ending on Facebook. I was like, it's just, I keep refreshing it. Yeah, no, I mean that's I don't know. I like what they did with Ahsoka. Again, it took me till that when they were doing in the shipyard. But then again, even that shipyard, that whole shipyard, those seeds were planted in the Mandalorian with those shows that people thought were throwaway shows.
Mhm.
Well, you could also say that they were planted in the first Jedi Fallen Order video game.
Yep.
I mean and I think that's one of the things that the Star Wars makers don't get enough credit for is their ability to take all of these things, all of these different pieces of this mosaic, and put them together over here to make a small picture, and then put them together over here to make a small picture. And then at some point in time, they all could join to
Yeah.
be a bigger picture. And to John's point, that picture is still growing. That picture is still developing. And I don't care how smart people think they are. I don't care how many people in the business people know. Unless you're sitting at the table in these conversations, you truly don't understand what's going on. And you won't understand what's going on until many, many years down the path when more of these things get released for us to witness, whether it's in a comic book, in a novel, in a video game, or in these shows that are coming up on Disney Plus. And I
Right.
feel bad for the people who watch one thing and their immediate response is, "This is stupid.
Yeah.
I hate this."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of it like you both were at Celebration Chicago, right?
Yep.
I think of it as that mural when they unveiled the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
There's more layers just to be unveiled.
Yep.
So
Yeah. No, that's I mean, I don't know. I like how the Ahsoka's, I don't want to say it ended, but I like how it left her.
Mhm.
And,
Well, and we know that there's more. There's more to her. There's more to the relationships. There's just more. And if we're patient enough, if we're appreciative enough, then we'll get to see it, or at the very least get to talk about it. I mean, I think one of the things that's really really fun about it is I'm able to get together with you guys, every Wednesday night, and to put these pieces together and hear different perspectives, or um, be reminded of things that I had forgotten before. Because there is that love, there is that respect, there is that curiosity for this stuff, and it's not a hard and fast. This is what I like, and everything else sucks, or
Right.
whatever.
Well, and then I forgot one part, the Ahsoka book,
hmm
which is a whole nother level of Ahsoka too. Probably next to the Clone Wars, my favorite Ahsoka. Like that was just I like that book. It was that exile time,
Yeah, I really think that adds just one more layer that makes the character so great.
Yeah, and I do think that helps make the transition from Ashley's Ahsoka to Rosario. Rosario, what's her name?
Rosario.
Rosario.
It's like Han Han.
Huh?
It's like Han Han.
Yeah.
Wow.
Although that's her real name. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that also helps too, because that's a little more like realistic, view. In the book, you get a deeper feel, than the animation. So
One of the other things I find very interesting about Ahsoka as a character. So she had a great deal of her life in which she was under the teachings of a group of Jedi, and specifically having Anakin as her master, the one who was, you know, responsible for her training mainly. And she also had a great deal of time where she was masterless and had to continue to learn on her own. And she learned on her own outside of the protection of the temple, outside of the hard and fast rules. And it does make me wonder, like, when did she get back in contact with Hu Yang, the Jedi droid, and what kind of adventures did they go on, between what we saw of her
yeah.
in Clone Wars to where we see her now.
What I also wonder with droids, I wonder if time is nearly as important as it is human beings. You know what I mean? Like a droid's memory of you is just as fresh as if he saw you 10 years before. You know what I mean? So when he's talking, he could be reminiscing about stuff that happened during the Clone Wars.
Yeah, or 100, even before then.
Yeah, or the day before, and to him, it's just it's. But I always thought Anakin. If Anakin would have had Anakin as a teacher, he wouldn't have fell, because Anakin was more of like in education we call it authentic learning. Like if I teach a kid how to build a gear system, and I have them build it for a week at a time, and then at the end of the week I give them a piece of paper and here answer these questions. That's not really authentic assessment on authentic learning. But if I say, here's a bunch of gears, put this together and show it to me, and that's your grade, then that's authentic learning and authentic grading or assessment. And I think Anakin's, because it was at wartime, he had to teach her authentically. Look, this is what we have to do, or we will die. Where some of those Padawans were coming out of book learning. That makes sense.
Well, and if you think about it, he wasn't teaching for the test.
Right.
He was teaching for survival. He wasn't teaching necessarily, to be a Jedi. And that's why I was saying, a little bit ago, that I don't know if Anakin was that great of a Jedi because of the way he learned and the way he lived and the way he taught.
Yeah. He might not have got the best teaching, because I picture if you're the chosen one, the teacher might have been a little easier on you. Like, you didn't want to be the first teacher to give the chosen one an F on their report card.
Well, I mean, if we really look at the teacher he got was not the teacher that wanted him.
Right.
Oh,
I know. I think Anakin's teaching was more of a family teaching, like a brother. Which, again, we could talk hours of just celibate monks teaching children through some dogma is probably not the. It's probably not any worse than getting stolen by the First Order and learn to be a stormtrooper. You know,
Different results, but similar ideas, absolutely. And neither one of them, whether we're talking Jedi or First Order, neither one of them are teaching their students how to survive in the world. It's how to survive, in as being a soldier here in the First Order or being a Jedi in the Temple. It's not, about being amongst the people and working 9 to 5 jobs and learning the ins and outs of romantic relationships and how to balance your finances and all that.
because apparently every time there's an education problem nowadays, they say they should teach kids how to fill out a checkbook. And I'm like, no one's filled a checkbook out in 20 years, buddy.
Yeah.
That's why we don't teach them how to fill out a checkbook.
I learned how to fill out a checkbook.
I know, but people are like that seems to be like that's like the go-to of why education is terrible, because we don't show kids how to do a checkbook.
Oh yeah, and you don't teach them how to write cursive
We need
either.
to write cursive, which I think we should. That's a whole nother story. I think cursive helps your mind make connections. However, we have to teach like 15 years worth of stuff in 12 years. We have to, cursive is one of those things that just goes by the wayside. Sorry. And checkbook writing. And
2 things I learned that I'm actually grateful I have the knowledge for.
well, yeah, but I mean, you're probably at that last generation, like, because now the only time I ever had to handwrite checks probably in the last 20 years was to the girls' school when I had to, everything else is just online.
Oh, I've never had to write a check in my life.
Yeah. So.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I can say I know how to do it. Cursive, on the other hand, 100% useful. I love writing in cursive.
Oh, I like cursive too.
Especially when you're signing your 8x10s, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, this is off topic completely. I
haven't gone off topic enough today.
That's a good point. I cannot write my first, middle, or last name. I can't print it. It always feels and looks off. Every time you ever see me write my name, it's in cursive.
Well, see, when I went to school, so one of your tasks when you go through your junior block is you have to write on a chalkboard. Back then, it was a dry erase board or a chalkboard. And if you're elementary ed, it really matters how you write. And my cursive is a mixture of print, capitals, and cursive all together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I did terribly on that, because when you're writing on a board like third graders, you have to I have to start my name with a capital H. Well, a lot of times if I print, I just print the lowercase as smaller capitals. Like,
yep. That's 100% how I write.
And in elementary, and when you do cursive in elementary, I forget the two. There was like Zane Blozier and one other. There's 2 different types of cursive, 2 different, and whatever.
You're making it up. I don't believe you.
Whatever one you chose, you had to stick with that all through the letters. It was how the letters were connected was his style of cursive. And so you literally had to pick one and write with that. And I used to always get dinged on that. They're like, because my co-op said, you should teach middle school. That's what she said. I'm like, well, that's good, because I like middle school anyway.
Have you thought of this podcasting thing as a future?
Yes.
It's
not invented yet, but
there are 4 different kinds, at least from Google.
Yeah, well, there was 2. There was like Zaner Blozier, Zaner something.
Zaner Blozier.
And I forget what the other one was.
Spencerian, Palmer Method, and Danielian.
Okay, Zaner Blozier and Danielian was the 2 we were saying.
Those are 2 Star Wars characters' names that were in the cantina in the background.
No, they would. That Zaner Blozier would be.
Zaner Blozier? That's a pirate's name.
That's my first Mando name. If I become a Mando merc, I'm going to... and I'll cursive on my... cursive on my shirt.
We have a bounty out for Zaner Blozier.
No, I mean, I'm the kids at school love my Ahsoka poster. Like I got one of the posters because we went and saw it, whatever the one where she becomes, I don't know which episode it was. We went and saw it in the theater, and they were giving out free posters. So I have one hanging in my room, and my students love it. So I was worried I was going to get in trouble because Star Wars puts a lot of guns in their posters. So I was like, yeah, I'll risk it and see what I can.
So even though this is, we're spending a lot of time talking about Ahsoka, I am going to ask this question. It's Ahsoka-esque or Ahsoka adjacent. What are your thoughts on Ahsoka training Sabine to be a Jedi?
I have a strong this, and I don't disagree with Star Wars very much. I like the training. I kind of, but the scene where Sabine was like being attacked by the zombie, and she used the Force to grab the lightsaber. To me, it would have been a better scene if she would have used her gauntlet to grab the lightsaber.
Just like in Rebels.
Yes,
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it.
because I was hoping Sabine was going to come out and be, I don't want to say the anti-Jedi or the anti-Force wielder, but she was going to be the Sabine of Rebels in the sense that she didn't need the Force to be who she was.
Yeah, I always thought that she would have done it her own way. You know, mix the two, the Mandalorian and the Jedi. Just
Yeah.
you know that Tar Vizsla esque feeling,
Yeah.
where where everyone thought Grogu was going.
Yeah.
I really wish that that's how they would have. Don't get me wrong. I actually really I like it in a narrative sense, but like as an outside perspective, top down view, I really wish she would have, like Mike said, used her gauntlet or just done things her way.
Yeah.
Because, through Rebels, that's how she was. She never conformed to the normality of, the Mandalorians. She always did things her way, be that her armor or how she would fight or
Yeah.
how she interacted with people.
Yeah, she changed her signet every season. Like whatever her first signet was the Minox. No, not the Minox. The Fear Nox. That they were in the cave at
The red-eyed
the
creatures.
first season. It was the rabbit-looking thing. Yeah, no, it was the dog or the wolf.
Mhm.
The first season, I'm looking at armor. It was the wolf, and then I think the second season was the rabbit-looking thing, and the third one there was a Minox or the Fear Knock in there, and then there's the Purgle.
That was the 4th season, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I painted them all, so. But yeah, I mean, but I understand the idea. I think I would have, liked it. I like what they're doing. I would have liked to see another Mandalorian similar to Mando that kind of like doesn't need any of that. Like would be, because my only thought was it would have been cool if they, as much as I know people hate them, if they brought in those stupid lizards that ate the Force with
Thrawn.
and he wouldn't have had any power against Sabine.
Mm-hmm.
But
honestly, when it's all said and done, I think Din and Sabine are going to end up being the two top dogs in the whole overarching narrative. Overarching
all the fanboys that hate everything Star Wars, all that Mando is going to be replaced because Kathleen Kennedy's too woke. I'm just like, I'm sorry, but unless Pedro Pascal,
Have you been watching South Park again?
unless Pedro Pascal is like a complete moron, he will take that job forever because he doesn't, like, literally he just has to voice it. Like he doesn't even have to wear the suit.
Yeah, there's 2 other people that get to do that.
Yeah. So he'll do that. Like, again, it's one of those too much, just enough information to make people make stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, oh, Pedro Pascal is going to do the Fantastic Four. This proves that he's not doing Mando. It's like, really?
I feel like if anything, that solidifies his relationship with Disney, so that he will continue to do it.
Yes. But I just, but I agree. That would be a cool team up. As long as they don't change Sabine's. I just bought a whole bunch of dye. I'm going to try to dye this undersuit Friday. I bought the undersuit. So I'm in the live action Sabine builders. I'm one of the moderators. And I've been telling these people that this suit is gray forever. Like because I saw pictures of it. What's his name sent me pictures of the suit. And they don't believe me because the standee's brown and the toy's brown. I was like, it's not brown. I ordered a suit from a company that the picture looked gray and it came brown. and they're like, that's
Like how rich of a brown?
Huh?
Like how rich of a brown? Oh,
Like mocha or more caramel.
because like Din's flight suit has the same optical illusion where it looks brown sometimes, but it's really gray. Or it's vice versa. I don't remember. I think the CRL have it as brown. I don't know.
Well, I think the cape is brown. I don't think
The cape is gray. I know for a fact.
that's what I mean. Sorry, yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Like the PVC armor. Yeah.
Like, stuff's nice though because it's not packed on. It's just
Oh, come on. I had to for 3 hours pluck the chromed armor off.
it's
That's not even on there.
this is so nice. Like it is so nice. But it's the wrong color. But on
And that's Cosplay Sky.
huh? No, this is another company because Cosplay Sky didn't. The Cosplay Skies look like this color. The other this company looked gray.
They're all the same. It all comes from
They
the
are,
same-
but I was like, I was hoping that someone knew the color,
yeah.
and apparently they didn't. So I have some gray dye that I think that will pull the dye enough. It's not that dark that it'll.
I'm not sure if that color theory is going to play out that way.
Well, if it doesn't turn gray, then I'm going to take that and get it once. I'm just going to take it to someone and say, look, make me this. Just
I
like,
think it'll be a different brown.
well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because I mean, at that point, you've essentially bought yourself a pattern.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be anyway. Because it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't. It would cost me more. They're like, well, just ship it back. Well, then that's going to cost me like $60-$70 to ship it back to China, and then who knows how long it takes. So I was like, you know what? I'll eat the loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we were just going to use that color, and I was like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. So.
You can tell that
can.
we are sticklers when
You
it comes
can do it. You just choose not to.
Yeah.
I need one of these companies to make Merox undersuit because it's basically just like a jumpsuit with ribbing down the sleeves. At least from what I've looked at those reference pictures way too much. But
Your nerd is showing.
Oh, that's what I wish I would have. I used to know how. I wish I would have stuck with it.
yeah.
See, that's what they should be teaching kids these days. Not how to write checks, but how to use a sewing
Well, they
machine.
took that out of our school. We used to do it up until I want to say 12 years ago. They took it out because there was no standardized test for it. When No Child Left Behind came around, No Child Left Behind basically took out anything that you couldn't make a standardized test for.
You can't standardize sewing?
You can't make a bubble test that then you can compare other schools to and allocate funds to.
Well, they can do, types of stitching and yeah.
It probably the testing companies. Pearson Testing probably didn't make one. That's my rant on No
Gotcha.
Child Left Behind.
Well, with that in mind, we're just at that hour mark. So how do you want to wrap
So
up
here,
tonight's episode?
we should go into our other topics. So we talked Ahsoka and we could talk more because really the only other character we have to talk about is Sabine.
Oh no, there's
There's tons of other characters, but I'm saying the other characters that have an arc, like we have Hera and stuff like that. But then we'll probably get more into the episode stuff.
May I present a suggestion?
Yes, so suggest a way.
I think since we talked about the titular character, I think we need to go the opposite way. I think we need to talk about the titular antagonist.
Okay, that
I
sounds
think,
good.
I think next week, only because I'm really selfish and I really want to talk about Thrawn. And I think since there's not a lot of Thrawn in it, we could lump Thrawn, Balin, Shin, Marok, and Morgan Elsbeth. Because I feel like all 5 of those combined, you would get about the same amount of content as Ahsoka.
Jin seems like someone we would find out that John's dating. I think.
Not quite. She's a little too angsty. But
I picture you and her riding off in those little Hot Wheel land speeders with cigarettes hanging out of your mouth.
Well, look, hey, I'm a sucker for a good cowboy killer, but no,
I see him riding one of those wolves.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know whose arms will be around the other one, holding down to them tight so they don't fall off. You know, hard to say. They're both of their hairs and flowing in the breeze as they gallop off into the twin sun sunset.
I did just get a haircut today, so
I do feel like everyone that was in that show, probably even more than other shows I've seen lately, realized how much fun they should be having.
yeah.
And now that all the behind the scenes stuff is coming out, I think I think some people are in it and they don't realize until it's too late what they're part of. If that makes sense.
I think a lot of that you can credit to Dave
Yeah. Oh, I'm
being
sure.
so hands on. But
Well, and just the way he seems to the energy he brings to the projects.
And think when this was filmed, though, some of those scenes were filmed when it was still under COVID restrictions, which I still think changed a little bit of the feel of the show, which could explain some of the first couple episodes because they were very like one person shots.
yeah, they were very cut off and centralized.
Yeah.
What I will say, since we're wrapping up, the one thing that I seriously appreciate about this show is that it's Ahsoka. The show is supposed to be about Ahsoka. Ahsoka isn't even in the top 3 of my favorite characters from this show, and it's still a great show.
Yeah, that's cool. They should have had an episode with just Din, though, just to tick people off.
Oh yeah, just throw it in there.
Every show should just have Din getting a new. He should just get a new ride. It should have him building a new ride. Let's every one.
Zero connection to the entire show. Just throw it in there.
Getting
the return of the Mandalorian.
It should just be getting an oil change. It should just be him getting an oil change. It should be like at Space Jiffy Lube.
Just sitting there in the waiting room with Grogu.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'd pay to see that. That someone needs to do that. That would be.
Or in a cantina somewhere.
Yeah.
Grogu's eating like some sort of squid soup.
Yeah.
And Din sitting at a table.
Just have a forced cameo by someone that makes no sense. Just to tick people off.
Well, they could have put who was the I can't even think of his name now. Carl Weathers. What was?
Oh
Grief
yeah,
Karga?
Grief Karga.
Because he was he's an upper level character now.
Well, no, they should just have him go get his car worked on. He goes to the cantina, and every time it's something different. Like it was a droid bar. The next time it's just a Jawa bar. And then the next time it's just a Wookiee bar. It's a Wookiee bar with alopecia.
Oh God. Oh, that's not something I wanted to picture tonight. Mike, what the hell?
They're already naked as it is. We don't need to see them furless.
Oh my God, it reminds me of the robot chicken bit.
So
you're telling me you've been naked this whole time?
Do we have any troop time?
No, not till Friday for me.
What are you trooping Friday?
A Welcome Santa parade.
Oh, nice.
I bought a 4-pack of fairy lights, battery-powered fairy lights that I'm going to wrap around my arms, and then my I haven't decided if I'm going to try and do something with the hood or if I'm just going to wrap them around the lightsaber.
You can get a giant Santa hat that fits completely over the hood.
They don't exist.
Oh.
I tried. I actually looked for it, and if it's not on Amazon, it doesn't exist.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I could not find an oversized Santa hat that would realistically fit over the hood. Because
you should get a sheath over your lightsaber that's in the shape of a candy cane.
Oh, there you go.
God, if I had unlimited time and unlimited funds.
Well, don't they have those candy canes that they have like the landscape stakes?
Oh yeah. Too bad tomorrow's Thanksgiving and I work in retail. So I work 8 to 5 on Black Friday, and then my troop starts at 5:30 and it's 15 minutes away. We're pushing it. So
well, it should be a fun troop.
Yeah, and warm for once for being an outdoor troop.
Yeah, I don't have any troops. I'm working on The Vader is still sitting there. I got some clay put on my 3PO head, and I have the biker helmet for Sabine. I got to put that together.
I have a troop coming up on December 2nd.
What's that?
It is the Lehigh Valley Comic Con.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so we're both trooping a con that weekend because I'll be at GalaxyCon the 1st and the 2nd.
Yeah.
That might be my last troop of the year, I think.
Yeah, I don't have because my kids all work, so and yeah, so I don't. It's they're. I don't want them asking off for like they're living. Their Dutch Wonderland closes at like New Year's Day, so they need to get as many hours as possible. So
yeah.
I think we did a nice job talking about Ahsoka, and even as much as we did spend time talking about her, we know that there's still more that will fill in the gaps as we talk about Ahsoka in relation to those other characters that we're going to get together and talk about next week. So
yeah. Well, and the show. I mean, I think the show did a good job. I wish it was longer. I mean, but that's how that's everything. I don't think there's any Star Wars show I wish wasn't longer, but I'm still waiting. I'm Skeleton Crew. I still think Skeleton Crew is going to be.
Well, that's next year, right? It's not coming out this year.
It was supposed to be this year, wasn't it, John?
It was supposed to be now.
Yeah,
but what's that?
It could come out. Maybe it'll come out Christmas week. Like the Book of Boba Fett came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still holding on hope for a second holiday special.
Yeah.
Variety show.
There's going to be a documentary about the holiday special coming out.
Comes out December 5th. I already have the DVD pre-ordered on Amazon. So
well, we could do a whole show on that. But I was telling my students because my students they don't know it; they just know what the adults around them say. And I was explaining just like I've said here before. You can't watch that out of context. Like you have to know what was on television at the time. I know it was bad Star Wars, but as variety shows go, it was not near the worst. And you know what I mean? It was like right in the middle of the pack.
Well, if you want to see some fun stuff, you should watch the Richard Pryor episode with Star Wars, the Donnie Marie episode with Star Wars. I
posted some of the Donnie and Marie stuff up on. If I'm not making fun of Ken's pink shorts, I was looking for.
Yeah, that we got to figure out a way to get that to go viral. My pink booty shorts need more attention.
I think the picture with your pants around your ankles, with the pink shorts on, I think that encapsulates everything you need to know about that day.
Yep.
Hey, that was man. I still keep thinking back of that day. That was I don't know if it was because my expectations were just low and I just was not ready to have a fun day. It was so much fun. That was just
I thought it was of the days that we could have had. That day was superb.
Yeah,
and I missed it.
And the weather was good too. So we just need more fan films. Like I for the two people that are watching right now or people that listen, if you're making a fan film, contact your local costuming groups. And if you're in a costuming group and you haven't done a fan film, find out people that are doing it. Is so much fun.
So I know that we've joked around about different episodes that we could do in the future, whether it's an episode where we do stand-up comedy.
Thanks for reminding me that.
An episode that we have the debate club. What I would also like us to do, I'd like to propose this as an episode for 2024, where the three of us get together and we spend at least an hour spitballing ideas for not fan films, but fan shorts. Okay. Because I right now I have at least three in my head, and part of it, two of them came directly from the drive home, from that last movie shoot that we had, and I think it would be really fun for the three of us to come up with some ideas and commit to filming at least one of them.
Yeah.
And they could be 6 minutes long. It doesn't have to be anything overly long, and maybe even figure out a way of incorporating some of these into the Georgies.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Or whatever we call that. We were trying to think of a name last week, John. I don't know.
Oh.
Were you sure we were trying to think of the names?
No,
I think it was the two of you. I don't think I was involved in that conversation, was I?
I don't think I was involved in that
There was
either.
like what the statues could be. Remember, we were like a
Oh yeah, that's right. We,
like, like an air pump or a.
oh, that was you and me. That's right.
I did post up our quest for the Falcon on a Reddit thread. I am not good with Reddit. I gotta get better with Reddit because a lot of my stuff always gets kicked back because I didn't do whatever you're supposed to. You know how you have to have all the little whatever group you're in has certain requirements and crap.
I love Reddit, but Reddit's a mess.
Yeah. So, but and if anyone's on any other social media, any Magic Jump post in the last week has our link in it in the comments. I don't care what they're posting about. And the presidents of the company liked my post.
Excellent. That is the exposure we need.
If I learned anything from working with Star Wars Geek Girl, you just badger the crap out of people for years and eventually something goes. You know what I mean?
So maybe for 2024 we can get a donation to the.
Well, I checked the numbers this morning, and after doing all the math, we're still 0 donations.
It'll change. One of these days, you're gonna make that same joke, and it'll be like, we have $1.
No. Well, and I'll make a web thing for it, but we will offer mail order cards to people if they want to donate in someone's name for the holidays.
What is this? The early bird special of '78?
I said this pitch before, but if you never want to be asked to do a Secret Santa again, that would be the best gift to give, because nothing makes someone less happy than a card that means absolutely nothing. You know, and I mean,
And that's if there was a way to end tonight's episode, that would be it.
Well,
Yeah.
I do have one thing that I would like to also end on, conjoined. Being that tomorrow is Thanksgiving, I want to end with what we are thankful for in the Star Wars realm. You know, we've said so many glowing things about Ahsoka. I think we need to express more thankfulness.
Well, I'll just start off by being thankful for the fact that there is more Star Wars. Gives us more to talk about, gives us more to connect to early stuff, gives us more to speculate on the future, gives us more to combat the critics with. And I think that's going to be one of my focuses for 2024 is to go with the critics, because I'm growing tired of hearing all of their nonsense.
And as if we didn't already need it, it gives us more of a reason to get together every Wednesday.
well, I tell you what, I am thankful for, and every year when we get more Star Wars, it gets even better. I am thankful for all the opportunities and people that Star Wars has brought into my life. Like, I wouldn't know either of you because if it wasn't for Star Wars. Like, Ken, there's no way I would have run it. Like, I've only been through Ohio, and I've only been to Jersey once or twice. Like, we would have never met, you know. And I would say 90% of the people I know outside of where I work is due to Star Wars.
Well, what's funny is we've been in the same place at the same time and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
You know, we were both at Star Wars Celebration Chicago and didn't bump into each other.
Would have had a picture with 000. That would have made my. Because I did run into someone like that. So look, now you're going to make me talk. When we went to that Ahsoka thing in the movie, we ran into a guy who I took his picture with Zoe at Celebration. Because he's like, I recognize you. Were you at Celebration? And I was like, yeah, I recognize you. And I'm a sound person. So when he talked, I was like, I think I have a picture of you. And I flipped through my phone. I was like, look, here you are at Celebration Anaheim. Getting a picture with he was the only Finn. That's why I remembered he was the only Finn at Celebration that day, dressed as Finn. So
Nice.
And he was from New Jersey too.
We're not all bad.
Well,
Growing up,
Oh.
I thought New Jersey was the devil. Like we were taught that Jersey drivers were terrible, and everyone from Jersey was like a very rude person from Philly. That's what we were told. Like,
Well, thankfully, I'm not from New Jersey, so I just happen to live here.
which I know is not true. So if one of our two people are from Jersey, I don't believe that, but that's what like we were told. So
And how about you, John? What are you thankful for?
like we
I'm-
never went to the beach in Jersey. We would drive to every state other than Jersey to go to the beach.
Are you sure you just don't hate New Jersey?
No, when I was a kid, I think my family did hate Jersey. You know, just like my grandmother was from Missouri, she hated Kansas. She hated anything from Kansas. She said nothing good came out of Kansas.
Even the Wizard of Oz?
She loved the Wizard of Oz, but she hated Kansas. She said Missouri blamed Kansas for all the tornadoes. Because, you know, that's science and stuff in the 1930s. John, what are you thankful for before we take really good ending you made into a
How do you top hating Kansas?
Hating Pennsylvania?
listen to Jersey?
I don't know. I get it. Now you put it into perspective. I hate the state of Pennsylvania. 99.999% of it. Anyway, I am thankful for the new CCO of Lucasfilm and all of the wonderful creators that we have, being Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, the maker himself, George Lucas, and all of these wonderful people that give us a reason to get together every Wednesday and talk about Star Wars.
Raise a glass.
All right. Well, now I have I have the correct outro.
Should you just play the intro since we already got the Wookiee?
We have a new outro too, you know. It's a little longer.
Yeah, and we have to come up with a new one for.
I used to put my faith in starships, but then my Falcon's hyperdrive just slipped. I used to worry about the future, but then I threw my caution to the wind. I had no reason to be carefree, no, until I took a trip to the treetop side of town. Yeah. You know I heard that wicked rhythm. Hey, I had no choice but to get down, dance. Woo! There's nothing left for me to do but dance. All these bad times I'm going through, just dance. Got cash in my heels tonight, baby.
No disrespect to my man here, but you ready for the real deal superstar?